This is part 2 and the final part of my mural project. So in the first part, I talked a little bit about how I ended up doing this. I put up a Facebook Marketplace ad because I was wanting to paint a van, like a camper van or a truck. And I was looking to do it just to kind of get more experience with that. I've done a van in the past, but someone reached out and asked if I would do a mural for the daycare that they're opening. And I thought this was a good opportunity to branch out from my style a little bit and work on some other kind of theming, because some of my paintings don't really have a theme, or I start with one and I don't stick to it. So this was a good challenge to stick to that and have some ideas from other people and see what they wanted to do. And it was good. It challenged me to do different designs and color schemes than I would, and it's exactly what I was looking for. So this is a really fun project. This will be the second part and last part where I show the ending of it and how it turned out. And this was quite enjoyable. It was a little bit scary at first, seeing that my painting is on a building that many people drive by. And definitely I struggled a little bit with some imposter syndrome, thinking, am I good enough? Is this going to look terrible? But I'm actually really happy with how it's turning out, and some of the extra little details that I tried in this one turned out really well. So overall, it was a really positive experience, and the owners of the daycare were really nice people. They were awesome to work with, and they had some cool ideas for the project. And yeah, they were just such good people that I really wanted to make this as great as possible for them. I think it's a cool thing that they're doing. They're starting a business, and I think it's a really special thing that I get to be a part of it, and my art gets to be on the side of their building. So at this point of the project, I have a lot of the large aspects and planned out aspects done. And now I'm just looking at the space and seeing what needs more detail, what needs more lining, and areas that look a little bit plain where I can add some smaller little aspects and details to it. So I'm doing some flowers underneath this tree and having them come out just so there's more to look at in this part. I'm having one on each side, just so it's nice and balanced. And then I'm adding some little animals and things within the tree. Then I'm just going through and seeing where there's more space and adding things like the butterfly. I'm gonna add some bees as well, other little bright, happy things. And then I have some shapes throughout it that you might have seen before. In those shapes, I'm gonna put some faces. Now, the challenge for this is the texture of the wall is great to paint on. It takes the paint nicely, but it's a little bit tough when you're trying to do small details. So I want to make sure that when I do the faces, they're large enough where the small little texture parts won't make a huge difference. And I'm also, usually when I do faces, they end up looking a little bit creepy. That's my art style that I usually do. So obviously I can't have creepy faces on the side of a daycare. So my plan is to do some outlines first, make sure that they look inviting and happy, or then do it with the full outlining and make sure that it looks happy. The painting really started to look nice and bright and inviting when I added the lighter colors with the yellow and the pink. This was a great touch because some of the background colors, they're still bright and positive, but this pop of bright really brought it together for that daycare theme. And I'm happy that I didn't do a lot of the background colors like that because sometimes the details get washed away. But I think it's looking pretty good right now. I have more colors to fill in, and all these aspects will be filled in with color before I do a little spray on it. I'm also going to go over that house and make sure that it's fully covered. You can't see any of the grass through it. But just going through, adding some pink and yellow where I can. The pink covered really nicely, which is good. I wasn't sure how it was going to look, if I needed to go over it a lot, but it wasn't one of those transparent paints, so it covered really well, and I only needed 2 coats in each area. Some of these colors, especially on the house where there was grass underneath it, I went over 3 or 4 times, but it's nice to have the colors you only need to do twice. I found that the best strategy for this was doing some, almost like doing little dots to go through to make sure that it covered the whole wall. And that usually helped when the second coat came, that it was a lot easier just to cover it all evenly. So I'm going in and doing some more smaller little aspects just to fill the space and make it look nice and busy, but not too cluttered. And I'm going through doing some more flowers coming from the bottom, just because the bottom of the mural looked a little bit blank. Then the owners had an idea to do this giraffe poking its head out from where the window is. And I was a little nervous about this because I haven't done a lot of cartoony faces like that. But I did the outline and I was really happy with how it looked. So I'm going in and doing the colors in it. And I'm gonna do the giraffe's body as a kind of like a palette of color. So I'm putting in a bunch of different colors within it instead of just painting it one color. I'm also going around these numbers and letters with a different amount of colors because I think that will pop and make it look more bright and happy. So at this point, now I'm going through and just adding more color where it needs to be. I have all the main aspects and even a lot of the smaller little details done and outlined. So I'm going in, adding some yellow. I find that when I'm adding this little bit of yellow, it makes it a lot brighter. So I'm doing that around some of the areas that need a pop of that bright color. And just going through, what I've been doing with this is when I have one color poured out, I'll go in and go to the whole area or the whole mural and go and see the areas that need yellow, and then doing that until I'm done with that color. I find it's a easier way to keep track of what needs certain either brightness or darkness or texture. But then I plan out what colors I'm using that way, and then just go through and think about what next colors I'm going to add as I'm doing this one as well. The idea with this giraffe is I'm putting a bunch of different colors in the body so it pops. So now I'm using a purple, and this is how it's looking so far. I really like the spacing of it, and I think it is looking really good. It was finally this point where I was feeling really happy with how it looked. As I've said before, a lot of my paintings, about up until 2/3 of the way done, I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm always a little bit nervous, and that's a little more obvious when it's on a building. So those first few days were a little bit nerve-wracking because it wasn't where I wanted it to be, obviously, because it wasn't done. And it's a building, so you have people driving by looking But at this point, I'm really happy. So I'm putting on these last colors and adding green throughout. I haven't used a lot of green throughout the whole piece yet because of the grass at the bottom. I wanted to see what other colors I'll use first before I put in a bit of green, but I'm putting it mainly higher up so it's not too close to the grass below, and putting it in a few spots. This green is a nice bright green, and yeah, this painting's really coming together now that I'm adding these brighter colors. Some of the first aspects were darker colors, which is good and needed for some of those kind of main parts. But now that I'm adding these ones, it really is bringing that kind of bright, happy daycare theme. And here I was gonna do a landscape in this little blue kind of sign area, but then they told me that they wanted some writing in it instead, so I'll go over and just paint over that with blue. But for now, going in, finishing the details of these little trees, and basically just going through and making sure that every part I want with color has color. Usually in my paintings, it's a little bit difficult to, at this point of it, fill in the colors because I have no white space, including the background. So it clashes a little bit, but because there's so much white space, I actually found it pretty easy to pick and choose the colors that I'm using, and there were no color clashes in it, which was nice. So I'm just going through, finishing this draft before I do the outline to make sure it pops out nicely. I'm also doing this little owl and gonna give it a little happy face and just make sure everything and all the details that I want to stand out are standing out. Now I'm going through and adding a lot of orange, and mainly in the smaller little aspects in it. I used a lot of pink and some yellows here in this stage, but just going in and doing this orange in this little area, it covered nicely and only took about 2 coats over it, which was nice. Like I said before, this wall was actually really nice to paint on. It didn't suck up the paint too much to the point where I have to do like 5 coats of one color, but it, because of the texture, looked really nice and was able to fully cover it. So I'm going through doing little details like adding some oranges to this tree. I'm gonna go through to each of the trees and just add little colors like that, or then going to that first rainbow and filling in some colors as well. I'm gonna go through and do a lot of lining to make sure that all the lines pop, but I really like how it's looking. And I'm just basically at the stage where I'm doing these final little, filling in the small little details that I did. When I look back, there were a few spaces that just needed a few more things. Nothing really planned, just more something like a little star or just like a little happy face, something like that. But I really like this. The spacing worked out really well. I feel like the aspects that I wanted to be seen and noticed are large enough, but not too big. And I'm happy that I was able to challenge myself with some things like the owl and the giraffe. Usually my paintings, like I mentioned before, and if you've seen any of my past paintings, are a little darker, maybe a little more creepy. So I really obviously couldn't have that happen. But I like how happy it looks, especially with that giraffe. And that's an idea that the owners of the daycare had. They wanted to add that. And it turned out being, I think, one of the best parts of it. So I'm really happy that they were giving that idea. And like I said before, they were awesome to work with, and I really appreciate them for trusting me with this and being able to do such a large part of their branding for this daycare that they're opening. It was really special to be able to do that and get to know them a little bit. They're really awesome people, and I'm really fortunate. And at this point of the mural, I was thinking a lot about how I had some imposter syndrome at the beginning, thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Is this gonna turn out well? But I'm really fortunate and feel really happy that I was trusted to do this, and it was a really cool project. So really appreciative to them for giving me this opportunity, and I really like how it's looking, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about when I was going through these final details, just really happy with how it turned out and wanting to make it as perfect as possible for them. So now I'm going and doing that writing that they wanted. They wanted it to say good things happen here. So just went through and traced it out first. I am not very good at handwriting, so I wanted to make sure it was well done before I go over it. And yeah, I traced it out, and then now I'm just going through and doing a lot of these extra lines just to make sure that everything is where I want it to be. And all those little details are over with the lines. It is really cool how much of a difference lining makes. It really brings the painting together. So I'm going through, mainly for the rest of this project, just going through and doing these extra lines to make sure that everything has a line and there's no white space within the lines. And going through almost probably every aspect just to make sure that the lines pop out and look good. The owners also asked me to do a few faces as well. So that was one of the last things I did. I just went through and added these happy faces. The animals already had faces, but I was adding them to things like the balloons, and in a bit I'll do that on the cloud. Now, the important thing I needed to do, like I've mentioned, is not make them creepy. So I really wanted to focus on the eyes being that kind of cartoon style where they're more kind of like ovals and really have a big smile, no teeth, because that would make it creepy, especially with the texture of the wall. The one thing about it is if you're really trying to do small details, sometimes it's a little bit tough. So I needed to make sure each aspect was large enough that the details wouldn't be ruined by the texture. It was a great texture to work with. It was just, that was the one challenge with it. So yeah, just going through, doing some lining and making sure that all of these lines pop and everything's done before I give it a final spray. And now I'm just going through coloring in the eyes. I wanted to color them in white just to give it that nice little happy, bright feel. And then I'll go in and just add like extra small details just to make sure that the eyes look happy. And yeah, just basically going in, doing these final touches right now. Now I'm adding a face to this planet. I was thinking about doing the smile in the rings of the planet, but it wouldn't really work, so I'm just doing it below. And then I thought it'd be kind of cool to add an eye in each one of these shapes and then make a face. So I'm doing that as well. Same thing, just oval eyes painted in white. And they actually turned out a lot better than I thought. I did outlines of them as well, just to make sure that they look happy and bright. Then I'm going through and doing these little, kind of like a cherry blossom style, just pink on top of the green, just to give it a nice little color. And yeah, now all that's left really is just the final details. I waited to do these eyes. The paint wasn't drying as quick as I thought. So I went back the next day and just finalized those details on the eyes and made sure that it was not mixing too much, so that they like popped, and gave a little outline as well. But I'm pretty much done. So this is that next day after I went in and just did that extra details on the faces and did a bit of a border around the eyes. And I gave it a spray. So I went through, I have this spray that's UV protective and waterproof, because because I wanted to make sure that this stays bright and nice. It is right in the sun, so the UV spray will help with that, make sure that it doesn't fade too quickly. And then the waterproof spray also helps. We get a lot of rain in the winters, so I wanted to make sure that it doesn't have any type of issues from that. It would be tough to have rain make an issue anyways, but I just wanted to stay on the safe side. So yeah, here it is. Here's the final project. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and it's bright, it's happy. The owners were really happy with it, and obviously I was happy to get the project done, but it was kind of sad finishing it. I felt really happy about this one. I feel proud of how it looks. It's really cool to have a building that is in your city that you drive by a lot and be able to see it and see that that's artwork that you put on it and that someone trusted to have you put on their business. So this was a lot of fun, and I'm really appreciative for the opportunity for it. And I really wanted to try something new, and that was the whole reason I was looking for a project like this. And I feel like I was able to do a different theme to what I usually do. Bright, happy, some of those kind of cartoonish details. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it transformed the building from just a plain white building to something that you see and hopefully makes people happy. I had a few people come up to me when I was painting it and had some cool chats about it, and people were excited to see it. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and thank you for watching. If you have any ideas for other projects that I should do in the future, let me know. I'm always looking for fun, big projects like this that will challenge myself.